I grew up in the very eastern end of Long Island. We're talking Mattatuck, Bridgehampton, before it was Bridgehampton. I grew up out there, with the fish and the fishermen and the potato farmers. And I left when I was 15 and went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, but that's where I grew up. And I didn't have a lot of, I had art. No, I didn't. I'm not even going to lie. I didn't have any art exposure out there. We would go, there was a little playhouse in East Hampton that would go to once in a while. But as a child, I really didn't have much. I would draw on the white page of hardbound books as a little kid. And I actually went to high school my last 2 years in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but I can honestly say I never took a formal art class. I'm a fraud. So I had to decide where I wanted to go to college. So I applied to 2 schools, Carnegie Mellon and Syracuse. They both had, my sister had gone to Carnegie Mellon. And I got into both, but Syracuse gave me more money. And I got in on a raw portfolio, drawings of my boyfriend, pretty much, to be honest. And this day, I'm grateful to him for sitting. And when I got to Syracuse, that was a nice school within a school, art school, 600 students. Most of the students were from New York City, well-trained, went to music and art. And it was like day 2 and they were talking about their color lithographs and I had never even heard the word. So what do you do in a case like that? You keep your mouth shut and work hard. So I ended up loving it there, having some fine teachers. I worked under Roger Mack in sculpture and graduated. And I said to one of my professors that I wanted to go on to Cranbrook. At that time, it was still a fellowship school. He said, "You'll never get into Cranbrook. You don't have the work." And, I said to myself, "I'll show you, you son of a bitch, you can cut that." I went on to teach for 5 years in a prep school where you needed the ability, not the credential. And that was a great experience because it was a school that really, really appreciated the arts. Riverdale Country Day in Riverdale. They made the little house on the river the studio, and it was a fine, fine school. I hadn't intended on teaching, but I had to eat. I thought I did get a great space from day one, and I still have it. It's a Upper West Side loft, if you can imagine that. It's not a real loft, but it's a big space. And so I had a space, but I didn't have, I didn't have a sponsor or anything. So I taught, and that was really a good thing because it led me to this career. I worked as an adjunct at Columbia at night. I was right down the street, and all of that sort of, and that was my school of education. It was sort of front line, get in there and do it. And I loved it. I did. I had a dear friend and he and his family, the Wairobas, came up to see the Picasso show in September. And they invited me down for the holidays the following December. And I never went back. The idea was to go down, spend a couple weeks, and I ended up marrying Val Myroba. And that was, the best choice I have ever made, really. And we were you know, everybody said, oh, the perfect couple. You know, they're both artists, they're both educators. My first job was at Miami Edison. And then I went, you know, and I was fine there. I would just hand the kids, a lot of newly immigrated Haitian American kids. Well, they are Haitian kids. And, you know, I had come from this fancy prep school and I didn't know if I could do this. And those students were amazing. I would hand them the canvas, I would hand them the paint, and I would stand back and get out of their way, because what they had was such a beautiful natural instinct of color, of form, of history. You know, when you see the work of Edouard Duval Carré, you get it, because these kids got it. Now, don't tell me what to paint. I know that the tree has 50 upside down birds in it. But I ended up staying a very short time. I then went on to lead the magnet program at Southwood Middle, had a couple other stops, and then ended up at Dash for almost 20 years.